on the receiving end of love. Volunteering triggers benefits far greater than exercising 4 times a week. Can you believe that? Professor Stephen G. Post from the Bioethics Department of Case Western University School of Medicine says so after carrying out extensive research. Now, when we think of extreme selfishness, we think of the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. Yet, we learn that as Scrooge discovers the joy of good deeds, he blooms and his spirit is reborn. And from then on, he emerges as a much happier, joyful and caring individual. We all know that doing good triggers the brain's reward hormones, the feel-good chemicals like dopamine, etc. But what else does it do, and what are the life-changing benefits that are just a helping hand away? Can doing good really and truly make us healthier? Can it help us live longer? Can it have profound effects on our health? I didn't have any of these answers while I was growing up. But since the time I was a child, I wanted nothing more than to help people in desperate need. Children who were left at the side of a road, elderly people who couldn't stand up, the disabled, the blind, the young people who had no hope at all in life. I just had this passion for wanting to help everyone. And I always had this picture in my mind of marrying a man who was kind and gentle and loving and caring and affectionate and just a very giving individual to one and all. And 20 years later, I won the Mother Teresa Memorial International Award in 2017. Despite having led what I believe to be the most unfair and stressful life that any woman could be handed, if, that is, we are handed our fate from God. The truth is, though, that we are not aware of the power behind giving. And obviously, all through the years, neither was I. So I started to research this subject and came across Professor Post, who spoke the words, and I felt as though it was being spoken by me when he said, we are dealing with something very, very powerful here. And yet, many speak about it but are unaware of this power. Acts of heroism are one form of altruism, as we have seen in 9/11 or at the Grenfell Tower fire in the UK, and at so many other natural disasters, and even in everyday life, where countless people choose to give up their free time to volunteer and to help others who are in desperate need, or to even give their lives to save others. Now, whether it's serving at a soup kitchen, or caring for orphaned kids, or taking people to the grocery store, or even helping a next door neighbor, when we reach out and do good to others, research shows that they feel a greater comfort. Their stress levels are much lower, and they feel an overall positive effect on their health and well-being. But what happens to the physiology of those who are handing out this love and these deeds of kindness to others? How are they affected? Now, 50 scientific studies funded through the Institute for Research on Unlimited Love. Just imagine that. Headed by Professor Stephen Post, talks about 427 married women with children who were studied for over 30 years, thinking that housewives with more children would be under greater stress and die earlier than women with fewer children. Surprisingly, they found that numbers of children, education, class, and work status did not affect longevity of life at all. In fact, they found that 52% of those who did not volunteer had experienced a major illness, compared though with 36% who did volunteer their services. People who volunteered were living much longer than non-volunteers. 44% reduction in early death was found among those who volunteered a lot in their lives. A much greater benefit than exercising 4 times a week. So I want to share some facts and health benefits with you. When we engage in good deeds, we reduce the physiological changes that occur when we are stressed. Hormones like cortisol is released and our hearts and breathing rates increase too. Now there's evidence that shows that profound state of joy and happiness that comes from giving to others does not come from anyone who just does it out of the call of duty. So writing a check, dropping a coin in a box without any care. It comes from interacting with people. The smiles, the touch, the voice, the feel, the empathy and the love that triggers these responses in the human brain is what has profound benefits on our health. Now there are high levels of this hormone oxytocin, which is also known as the bonding hormone in people, who are very generous towards others. Meaning that when you are altruistic and touching people in a positive way, lending a helping hand wherever you can, your oxytocin levels go up and reduces the risk of various illnesses. Not to mention that it also slows down the aging process as well. I have had my oxytocin levels checked, and given the person I am and the person I have always been, my levels are very, very high. Have you got your levels checked? Now, we are stressed every day and we don't think anything of it. It just happens. It's life. But what happens if this stress response remains turned on for a long period of time in our lives? Our immune and cardiovascular systems are adversely affected. It weakens our defenses, making us more susceptible to abnormal cellular changes that take place in the body. Now, aren't we at this very place right now where people with suppressed immune systems are at greater risk of the COVID-19 virus? And what does it mean when it comes to our survival on this planet? We have evolved by caring and helping others through the generations, through time indefinite, largely to ensure the survival of each other. Now, Professor Post mentions that Darwin, who we all admire for so many reasons, in his book The Descent of Man, mentioned the survival of the fittest only twice in his book, but he mentions benevolence 99 times. There is a reason why Darwin did that and said that so many times. But here is another great discovery from all of these studies that have been carried out. It has proved that the only way to get rid of bitterness, anger, rage, jealousy, hatred, resentment, and I could go on, is simply to do good for others. Now, I know what helped me to get over so much in my life. And not normal obstacles, not a normal way of life, not normal hardship. I have led an extraordinary difficult life. And yet, I have got through and succeeded against all odds. But coming back to the Ebenezer Scrooge story, and to answer what turned him around when he was a man that no one seemed to be able to change. Professor Post puts it perfectly. He says, Scrooge came alive only because he tapped into the whole of his neurology, endocrinology, and immunology through something that is available to each and every one of us. And that something is called generosity. But then, why do so many of us not volunteer? Why do so many of us not help? Why do so many of us just not make the time to give back? So the takeaway that I have from all of these studies is on a few lines that many of you might have read, but I'd like to leave you with this. Where it says, why do we find it so difficult to make time to volunteer, to make time to give? Difficult because we think that happiness is found only in the places where wealth and fame abound. And so we go on searching in places of pleasure, seeking recognition and monetary treasure, unaware that happiness is just a state of mind within the reach of any one of us who takes time to be kind. For in making others happy, we will be happy too, for the happiness we give away will return to shine on you. This is exactly the lines that are written by a very learned poet, and it puts everything into perspective. To your success. Thank you.